Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about something kind of spicy, I guess. It could be something that many people might not think about on their day-to-day basis, and that is conspiracy theories. If you are new to the podcast, we don't talk about conspiracy theories a lot because we talk about personal development, helping you get to the best places in life. And sometimes conspiracy theories can do the opposite because we might get stuck in a pattern of thinking that might not be beneficial for us because we're worried now about what could happen. And then so we might prepare for something that might never happen. And you know what happens when you prepare for something that doesn't happen? In a sense, you waste time. So if we're worried about things that could happen, for example, let's say conspiracy theory is that the government's trying to kill us. And we're like, oh, great, the government's trying to take us over. And now we have to figure out how to survive the government attack. Guess what? You need to figure out what you're doing in your life. You need to figure out why you're going to fast food places and killing yourself and eating all this junk food every single day and not getting proper exercise. But yet you're worried about something else. So do you see how conspiracy theories can sometimes distract us from what we can be doing in our day? And I cannot tell you how often this happens to individuals. They get so stuck in a way of thinking that they can't see what they can be doing instead. It could be the normal mentality of thinking that is happening to a good portion of the world. But then at the same time, if we're trying to live in abundance and grow ourselves, how can we get out of negative mindsets and into more mindsets that are going to be beneficial for us? I'm not saying that conspiracy theories are not fun to listen to. It's almost like a murder mystery where you would listen to a story about, someone who has done something wrong. You're like, oh my God, this is crazy. Guess what? This is the reality. People just have different mindsets. So I wrote a blog all about conspiracy theories and how we can unravel the mindset behind them. All right, everyone. If you're new to the podcast, new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and to share the video and your audio to help build a community of individuals who are looking to get into a better and stronger mindset. And today we're going to be looking at how conspiracy theories attract our mind. The reason why is because typically the theories have a negativity to them where I need to focus on this because if I don't, something's going to happen to me. The mind loves negative. The news understands this so well. I've talked about the news before and how the news promotes fear, but they do it in a way that is not going to cause mass chaos and riots. I know, the George Floyd riots were one thing, but we look at what and how the news presents itself and how conspiracy theorists present the news. And it's, oh my God, we need to be paying attention to this. We can look back at the pandemic. We can look at housing market crashes. We can look at the economy. We can look at food shortages. We can look at water consumption, droughts, etc., where people will say, oh, this is something you need to be paying attention to. And one of the things I will say is it's interesting, and I talked about this before, and I actually saw a video the other day of a guy kind of hinting at it, and it was just so funny in a sense because that is the reality. Where in Austin, I remember 2017, there was a little bit of snow. All the airports apparently closed down and all the roads closed down. And I remember my uncle from Puerto Rico, he sends me a message. He goes, hey, is everything going okay in Texas? I hear all the airports are shut down and it's real bad there. And I remember I sent him a picture of a little bit of snow that was hiding underneath a tree in the shade. And all the roads were clean and everything was clear and it was a beautiful sunny day. And I said, this is how Austin, Texas looks currently. And he was like, that is wild how we're getting all of these, news saying it's so bad there. It's not. And then just recently, a couple months ago, it rained. Oh my God, right? Rain. But here in Texas, when it rains, people don't know how to drive in the rain. And it's because maybe it doesn't rain that often. In the summer, I remember when I first came down, I think it was 90 days, it didn't rain at all. And it's very different because in Connecticut, it's always raining. And the soil's different. And it's pretty chill, right? So I don't mind driving in the rain, but here in Texas, like when it rains, people lose their minds. They're like, oh my God, it's raining. I forgot how to drive. And that's literally Texas drivers. Not to throw them all under the bus, but the reality is, when it rains here, it's big news. So everywhere in Connecticut, like my family are listening to the news, like, oh my God, it's raining in Texas and it's real bad. And there's flash floods and people are drowning and stuff. And I mean, it's insane. So then they call me and they go, oh, I hear it's real bad in Texas, huh? The weather is real crazy. And I go, no, it's not. It's fine. It's regular weather. And they're like, oh, okay. And then the same thing happened with a guy that he does TikToks and stuff. And he was like, my plane got canceled because of the rain. And then he kind of rolled his eyes like, it's not that bad. Because it wasn't that bad. The reality is we make things more than they need to be. And sometimes conspiracy theories can be more than what they are. Because we can look at the different types of things that happen in a conspiracy theories. And this is all on the blog. So I encourage everyone to click the link in the description box below, follow along, or to read it at your own leisure. That might be, you can be looking at pattern recognition. You can feel the need for control. And, these are all factors like psychological factors that make it so appealing. We can look at community. Everyone else is running around doing it. So maybe I should do it too, or I should be worried about it too. And then, of course, the cognitive bias. I go into detail in the article. Not going to go into detail and bore you today, but the reality is many people are going to be focusing on this in the sense that they're looking at, oh my God, that's so crazy, or this is weird. So we look at the things that, again, our mind is naturally attracted to because we are hardwired to look at the problems. We are hardwired to look at the negativities because that has kept us alive. Even though it kept us alive for millennia and all of these years, it doesn't mean that our mindset has now changed. The structure now is our mind is still negative. We can change it. We could be looking at more positive things, but we don't. So we remain stagnant. The structure of the conspiratorial thinking is that we are going to be looking at the arguments. We're going to be looking at this hidden agenda and knowledge, and we're going to be trying to connect the dots, and we're going to be wasting all of this time on things that could be insignificant to you. Because at the end of the day, let's say you connected all the dots and you found out the master plan. Maybe you want to promote it to everyone. You tell everyone about it. But is that your goal in life? Is that going to give you abundance? And it might. I'm not saying it won't, because I know some people who talk about conspiracy theories and they promote it or they talk about it. They have a good audience following and they're maybe able to make a living off of it. But at the same time, the general populace, they're not going to make money from it. And if they do, it might just be a hobby at that point. And you have to ask yourself, are you elevating yourself? If you can remember, like a couple of weeks ago, we talked about remembering what was lost. You're losing time, you're losing focus, you're losing drive because you're worried about what could be happening or what will happen versus what are you doing right now. The moment is so powerful. And when you have a conspiracy theory mindset, typically you relinquish that moment. And we just have to reclaim it. Not saying you can't even look at conspiracy theories, because you can. It's just how far you want to get immersed in. And this is the last point right here, the social dynamics to it, right? Because at some point we are going to be living in it in ourselves, and we're going to say, oh, we're focused on it. We have this opinion. We are giving ourselves, a lifestyle now that we need to be living in it. If we want to combat it, we basically have to give ourselves this idea of trusting ourselves. For example, let's say you can walk, and I hope you can walk. If you're being true to where you want to go to the refrigerator, 100% most likely, I can get up and I can go to the fridge and get what I want. Okay? Hopefully you have food in your fridge too, right? We know that we can trust in ourselves for that. And I know I can trust myself to do things. For example, times might be hard for families and people, and they might be struggling like, where can I get food for my family? Well, guess what? This is about the pressure. I recall a story of Shaq. He was on a podcast. And of course, Shaquille O'Neal, he has had a life full of ups and downs also, right? He wasn't this famous star the whole time. He built himself up. He built his legacy. what he said during a podcast was one day he had lost a game, I guess with the Magic or something. The day of, I guess his dad called him and said, hey, come home. We need to talk or whatever. Shaq's like, okay, whatever. Okay, so he reluctantly goes home, sees his father, gets in the car with his father, and they start driving. They're not talking, no one's talking, and then eventually he says something like, okay, so where are we going? Like, what are we doing? The father says something like, you can't handle the pressure, because I guess he wasn't playing good and like he lost the game and he's okay with it. It doesn't matter if you win or you lose, you're still going to get paid. And of course, at the end of it, if you win, you get a ring. The father takes Shaq to a homeless camp or, like under a bridge. And there was a tent there. So the dad parked the car and he's literally just watching this tent. And this is like early in the morning. So it's like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, then like around 6:30, 7 o'clock, someone comes out of the tent. And it was a man. The man came out of the tent and he kind of went off. There was another woman in there and there was some kids in the tent. Just looking at the situation, you can see they weren't in a good place. Having kids living in a tent under a bridge is probably not a good place. I'm going to say if you go camping or something like that, but this is their lifestyle. This is what's happening, right? That's their reality. That father is faced with an obligation. He has to take care of the kids. He has to take care of the wife. He has to take care of the family. And the father says, you don't know what pressure is. Look at that man. That's pressure. He has to go out and he has to figure out how he's going to feed his family for the day. That's pressure. You don't know how good you got it, because at the end of the day, you get paid still, right? He's like, yes, sir. The reality is many people don't realize that they're in this same situation. They have so much flexibility because here, especially in America, we have this entitlement mindset and aspect where we have a lot of things given to us. And then even if we are unable to do something, there's government assistance. There are services that can help us, like nonprofit businesses, food banks, etc., where we can get support and help. And then there's, of course, Good Samaritans and other options for us to figure out how we're going to make it through. The issue is not so much, will we make it through, but will we make it through and become better because of it? This is something that we don't understand. And the conspiracy theory that's not associated with the story, but it creates a pressure for us to take some level of action, or it creates a pressure for us to be prepared for something that might not happen, that could happen, but then at the same time, why take action if we have thought about conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy after problem after problem after problem, and nothing ever happened? I talked about this before. This happened in May when I guess the Mayan calendar was supposed to be ending, and they thought the whole world was going to end. And it was all of these Jehovah's Witnesses that said the world is going to end, and they spent all of this money on different billboards saying, the Savior is coming, etc., etc. Sure enough, I'm in my room and I'm like, okay, maybe the world's going to end, right? Conspiracy theory. And I'm in college at the time, I believe. And all my friends, they were like, let's go to Buffalo Wild Wings. I think it was a Thursday or something. They're like, it's like 50-cent wing day. And they're like, you want to come? I'm like, yeah. I was ready for the world to end. And then I had a friend, they say, hey, we're going out to eat. You want to join us? I'm like, let's go. So we all go. We're up there and the world's about to end, right? Supposedly, I'm still here. We were all like drinking and we were like celebrating. I think I had like a Samuel Adams. This is what I drank at the time. I don't drink anymore. We were all like cheering, saying to the end of the world, to the apocalypse or whatever we were cheering. Like we were just having a good time. There was some level of truth, but then there was a lot of skepticism also there, where like it could happen, it's possible, but the reality of it happening is very slim to none. We were just having a good time living our life, and then sure enough, the day came and went and nothing happened. Where now we were like, okay, well, we can either focus on the things that make us fearful and make us, hide in our bunkers, or we can say, you know what? I'm not worried about what could happen. I'm worried about what I should be doing. Because if I know I'm making things happen, then I know I can be making results. And that is what conspiracy theories stop people. And the mindset behind it is it can limit you to a certain degree. I'm not saying that you can't listen to people who have these far out stories and they talk about aliens and stuff like that and Area 51 and Antarctica. I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole of looking at all the conspiracies. And I actually talk about a couple into this blog, but we don't have to talk about them because we know the reality is we're going to think what we want, and whatever we prepare for is what we think could happen. For example, if you have a generator in your house, we have an issue here in Texas. Like, we only have a couple power plants. We have multiple power plants, but like the plants that are running right now are just like a couple. So the power plants that are giving all the power and stuff like that, if one little thing happens to it, everyone loses power. So people are like, I'm going to go buy a generator. I'm going to go get solar. I'm going to go live off and be off the grid, right? I'm not going to rely on the government. I'm not going to rely on the cities or the state. And in a sense, self-reliance is not a bad thing. But then at the same time, waiting for something bad to happen is almost like you're going to wait for something bad to happen before you allow something good to happen. Does that make sense? Because we're worried about what bad could happen that we miss all of our other blessings. And it happens every single day. I can't tell you how many people focus on the negative, focus on the bad, focus on the what if in life than the certainty that is them. Because I can tell you and I can help you become certain in yourself. You can be certain that when you take a first step in the morning, like when you get up out of bed and you don't hit the snooze button because you have trained yourself to say, I'm going to fight for whatever I want to fight for in my day. It could be peace. It could be serenity. It could be for progress. I don't know what you want to fight for. I don't know where you are right now, but you get to make that directive for yourself. And you say, I'm going to do something. And you give yourself this idea and you start pushing that step, that next step. Everyone has purpose. But then the moment you say, but what if the world ends? Why am I doing this? What if, the government's out to get me? Why am I doing this? What if a meteor comes and gets me, or like global warming or something like that, right? We can look at all of these things and have a negativity to it. And in a sense, like, if I don't do something about this, things are not going to change. And unless you're like Greta Thunberg, I think her name is, she's probably like the most pronounced global activist out there. Or activist out there. I'm not even sure what she calls herself or considers herself, but she makes quite a bit of money, just, from her name and showing up places and speaking. She's a popular person. She has a good cause, but then at the same time, she has been able to create something for herself. The issue is that many people who share the same views and ideals, they are not going to be making as much money as she is. So they might be struggling. They might be trying to figure out where their next meal is. They might be living with friends and they might not be in the best situation. The people who have responsibilities are going to do them. And if we look at like even the riots or the sit-ins, and we have the protests at the colleges that happened past May 2024, we can see that most of these people just don't have anything better to do. And I mean, as you grow up and you become an adult, and I'm not saying that if you're 25, you're not an adult, you get different responsibilities. You're a parent, for example, you have responsibilities. We go back to the story about purpose or pressure, where you don't know what pressure is because we have been living in a plush society. We have been living in a fantasy world. We have been living in the delusion that things are going to always be okay. But the reality is things are not going to be okay. If you don't do the work to maintain and to make progress, you're not going to have it. Think of it if you buy a brand new home, brand spanking new, and you do zero maintenance on that house for 10 years. You know how much stuff is going to be broken in that house? Your AC might not work. The paint might be chipping. I mean, there's going to be a lot of problems. That typically tends to happen when you're focused only on the negative, not making progress, remaining stagnant, remaining maybe in comfort, or being uncomfortable about what could happen. Either or, stagnancy can be the enemy. And oftentimes conspiracy is going to give you the mindset of remaining still, of being helpless. And even if there is a beacon of hope, how often and how readily are you going to take it? Some people do it for a week, maybe a month, but they fall right back into that negativity because the brain is naturally attracted to it. So in closing, unraveling the mindset behind conspiracy theories is more than just what we talked about today. We can continue to talk about conspiracy theories. We can talk about all the things that could be happening in the world and that are being hidden from us. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, what do we gain from it? What happens when we gain this information? For example, there's aliens and they exist and they're out to get us. What do we gain from that? We gain absolutely nothing. Maybe we gain a fear and we say, now I'm afraid that the aliens are going to come get me. I got to watch my back. I got to do this, right? So we gain fear. We don't gain anything from it typically. The allure is that we are attracted to the negative. And there's nothing wrong with being attracted to the negative. The true issue is, if we understand that our mind can be fooled so easily and focused on the negative, we need to continue to train our mind to be dynamic and focus on the positive, even if all of these negativities are going to be presented to us on a daily and consistent basis. A conspiracy theory is going to be something that can be an anchor in our life and is something that we should relinquish more than we should embrace. Conspiracy theories are fun to listen to. They're a good watch. They can be entertaining to a degree. They can even help you take action, some level of action at least. Maybe you have water storage. Maybe you have 10 years supply of food, right? I know when I was younger, conspiracy theories that were there, I was like, whoa, let me pay attention to this, right? Because I should be paying attention to it. But as I have done the work and mindset coaching and elevating ourselves and then hanging around, I guess you can say prolific figures, high income earners, they don't worry about this stuff. They go, if the world's going to end, the world's going to end, but I'm going to make some money today. So if you want to worry about the world ending, I'm going to go make some money, or I'm going to go invest, or I'm going to go make some progress in my life. The people who choose to worry about the things that they have no control of, those are the people who end up slowly deteriorating in life, maybe even mentally. We're not going to pick on these individuals that, wearing tinfoil hats and they feel like people are trying to communicate with them. Like, this is not that podcast to be making fun of individuals, because those individuals need help. They need some type of assistance. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you need help, get help. We do the best to help people. And typically the people we work with here at Reven Concepts are people who are going to be in a good mental standing and they know what they want. And they're not going to be confused about what's real and what's not real and the negativities of the world. They see the potential within themselves. How I would begin to help those individuals who are trying to step away from conspiracy theories is that we don't have to get rid of the conspiracy theories. The only thing we have to implement also that go along with them is how much more progress are we going to make versus how much time we're spending on these conspiracy theories. So easy example is if you spend an hour on conspiracy theories a day, you need to spend 2 hours at least to progress and make enhancements in your life. Okay, so think of doubling. So if you spend 6 hours on conspiracies, you need to do 12 hours of enhancing yourself. Eventually, you're going to limit how much conspiracy you consume. And then from there, you're going to focus on the progress. Because I have found something extremely powerful in life is that we all want to make progress. We all want some type of higher potential. Call it happiness, call it abundance, whatever it be, right? There's different terminologies for it. If we do something that is getting us closer to it, it might feel like a task, but at some point it's going to feel like, whoa, this is enjoyable, especially when you start winning. So we have to get away from the mindset of being incapable, of being helpless, and get into the mindset of winning and being able to take action at every single moment. We're not going to only wait for a meteor to come hit us anymore. We're going to make the impact in our life that's going to be as big as a meteor impact. And we're going to make huge waves and we're going to, let the world know that we are present and you can be present today. If you need help, reach out to us here at Reven Concepts. We'll be more than happy to help you on that journey and to look at your mindset to see where you can make improvements and where you can enhance yourself. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach, If you have any questions, email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I'll see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.